Hello, my friends. Kiwi Christian here, yet again. Today's video is going to be another in the series of answering Jehovah's Witnesses' objections, or addressing Jehovah's Witnesses' objections. Now, one of the most prevalent verses in the Bible that Jehovah's Witnesses argue against is surely John 1:1. And John 1:1 clearly proves that Jesus is Jehovah God. So, of course, the Watchtower, hate it with a vengeance. Bear with me, I do have a bit of a sore throat, but I feel that this is an important video to do. So, let's have a look. Jehovah's Witnesses say that John 1:1 should be translated, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was a God. As opposed to, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So, are they correct? Also, are they consistent with their reckoning of the Greek language? Now, this might get a bit involved linguistically. I'll try and keep it as simple as possible. Okay, the short version is they are completely wrong. There is no way that you can translate John 1:1 to read a God, because it violates Greek grammar. It makes absolutely no sense in Greek, the words that they translate a God. Okay, that's the short answer. It violates the Greek grammar. So, the New World Translation, which is their own hash of a translation, translates the first word for theos in John 1:1 as God, but then they translate the second theos as a God. Hang on, it's the same word. In Greek, in John 1:1, it's in hakain in ho logos, kai ho logos e proston theon, kai theos in ho logos. So there's two theoses there. First one they translate as God. The second one, same word, they translate a God. Feel free to comment as I'm doing this. In the Greek, there is a definite article before the first occurrence of God, i.e. the God. However, there is no definite article before the second occurrence of God. Sorry, that gave me a bit of a fright, the door slamming. So, okay, let's say that again. In the Greek, there is a definite article, the, before the first occurrence of God. However, there is no definite article, the, before the second occurrence of God. This is what the Watchtower teaches. Now, the Watchtower argues completely falsely that when a noun has a definite article, it points to an identity or personality, such as the person of Jehovah God. The Watchtower claims again falsely that the same phrase is never used of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. So let's see what that one is. Let's have a look. Yeah, theos. They say that theos is never used for Jesus in the New Testament. And you can find that in the Watchtower, 1st of July 1986 on page 31. Now note that the word theos is used of Christ in Matthew 1:23, Matthew 1:23, behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. So here Jesus' name, Emmanuel, is God with us, not God's representative, not a God with us, God with us. It's also used of Christ in John 20:28. And Thomas answered and said unto him, occurrence mu, or theos mu, my Lord and my God. And it's also used, the word theos, in Hebrews 1:8. But unto the Son he said, thy throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter of righteousness is the scepter of thy kingdom. The Watchtower really mucked that verse up, but the original Greek does say, but unto the Son he said, thy throne, O God, is forever and ever. Unbelievable how the Jehovah's Witnesses can be so dishonest. Now, the Watchtower falsely claims that when a singular predicate noun has no definite article and it occurs before a verb, as theos in John 1:1c, then it points to a quality about someone. So that here it says that Jesus, the Word, has a divine quality, but is not God Almighty, and that can be found in their Kingdom Interlinear translation, page 1139. So here they say that the first theos means God. The second theos means God-like. They completely bastardize the Greek language. Now notice that Jehovah's Witnesses, they alone translate Jesus as a God. How do they support this clear anti-Christian blasphemy? To support this view, they quote a number of people. First, they quote Johannes Grieber. Oh, they hate him now. We'll go into that later. Johannes Grieber, his New Testament in 1937 is what they used to support that translation. They used Johannes Grieber's Bible translation to support John 1:1. Now, Johannes Grieber was a spiritist who claimed that spirits helped him translate the New Testament. You can find this admission in the Watchtower, 15th of September 1962, page 554, and 15th of October 73, page 640. Now, the Watchtower knew he was a spiritist in 1956. Watchtower, 15th of February 1956, page 110 and 111. Yet they still quoted him. Number two, they quote Julius Manti. And this is strange because they misquote Professor Manti. And Manti wrote a letter to them saying, stop misquoting me. Julius Manti, who refutes their translation, saying, quote, they have forgotten entirely what the word order of the sentence indicates, that the logos, or word in English, has the same substance, nature, or essence as the Father. To indicate that Jesus was a God would need a completely different construction of the Greek. they misquoted me in support of their translation. 99% of Greek scholars and Bible translators in the world disagree with Jehovah's Witnesses. So either they're the only ones who are right, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and everyone else is wrong. Or maybe the Jehovah's Witnesses got it wrong. So when they quote Julius Manti to support their translation, please remind them that Julius Manti has written a letter saying that they had misquoted him. How deceitful can you get? Okay, so let's get on to the Bible. The Bible. Okay, the New World Translation is wrong in translating John 1:1 as a God for these reasons. Number one, Jehovah's Witnesses claim that because the second theos has no definite article, as in the, we should translate it as a God. Then why has the New World Translation, Jehovah's Witness version, broken their rule 4 times in John 1:6, 12, 13 and 18 by translating theos with no article as God? They are inconsistent. So let's have a look. John 1:6. Okay. Well, why have I got James? John 1:6. Thank you very much. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. Why don't they translate that as there was a man sent from a God whose name was John? If they're using their own reasoning as to why they've translated John 1:1 as a God, the same thing happens here in John 1:6. Why don't they use the same formula? And in verse 12. So let's have a look in John 1:12. What have we got here? But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. Why don't they translate that as, but as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of a God? There's no definite article there. So they should translate it as sons of a God. And in verse 13, the very next one, let's go. John 1:13. Which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Why don't they translate that the same way as John 1:1? It's the same language, same context. Which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of a God. That's what they should translate it at if they were consistent. They are not consistent. They are deceitful. They are devious. I'm sorry, I know that's harsh. Correct me if I'm wrong. And in John 1:18, no man has seen God at any time, the only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father. He hath declared him. If they were consistent in their translation of theos, then they should translate this verse as no man has seen a God at any time. Jehovah's Witnesses, why are you not consistent? If the New World Translation was consistent, they should translate theos as a God in those cases as well. There was a man sent from a God. To them gave he power to become the children of a God, nor of the will of man, but of a God. No man has seen a God at any time. If they were consistent, why just pick that one verse, John 1:1? this is clearly, all this a God business in those verses are completely wrong and ridiculous. Why only in verse 1 do they refuse to translate theos as God? I think it's because they don't want Christ to be Jehovah God. The Jehovah's mistranslation of John 1:1 is not supported by any Greek grammar textbook. Many other verses have theos plus no article, and yet are correctly translated as God. Such as Matthew 5:9, Matthew 6:24, Luke 1:35, Luke 1:78, Luke 2:40, John 3:2, John 3:21, John 9:16, John 33. John 9:33. 1 Corinthians 1:30, 1 Corinthians 15:10, Philippians 2:11 and 13, Titus 1:1, Romans 1:17 and 18. All these verses also have no article in front of the theos, and yet they do not translate these passages as a God. Jehovah's Witnesses say that by translating theos as a God, then Christ is a lesser God, a divine purpose. Oh, hang on, I thought there was only one God. Let's have a look. Now, if John had intended this adjectival sense, the word was divine, he had an adjective, theos, instead of theos, available to use, as found in 2 Peter 1:3-4, which means divine power and divine nature, if Christ was just a divine lesser God. So, to uncomplicate that sentence, there is a word in Greek which means godlike. John didn't use it in John 1:1, but it is used in 2 Peter. Instead, John uses theos, which means God. Spiros Zodhiates, in his book Was Christ God, page 102, states assertively, it would therefore be totally wrong to translate the statement that John makes in John 1:1 as the word was divine. Now, the word which is used in the original Greek is theos, God, not theos, divine. Theos, 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 divine. Jesus Christ did not merely have divine attributes, but he was God in his essence and nature. He was not a man who attained divinity, but God, who humbled himself to take upon himself human nature in addition to his deity. Now, this is a Greek scholar. Okay, number 3, contrary to the Watchtower claim, theos, or God, with the definite article O, is used of Jesus Christ in the New Testament, as we've seen. John 20:28, Matthew 1:23, Hebrews 1:8. Hence, the same word, hotheos, is used of the Father, is also used of Christ. Number 4, Jehovah's Witnesses say that Jesus is a God. Jehovah disagrees with them. God disagrees with them. In Isaiah 44:8 by saying, is there a God beside me? Yea, there is no God, I know not any. Jehovah says that there is no a God beside him. This shows John 1:1 in the New World Translation to be wrong. Hence, Jesus cannot be a God. So he must be the God. Ancient unsealed Greek manuscripts were all written with capital letters, so one could not distinguish between God, little g, big G, and God, little g, except by the context and whether the writer believed in one true God or more than one God. So did the Apostle John believe in one true God or more than one true God? Since John believed in one true God, we can conclude that Jesus is the one true God in John 1:1. Okay, 6. Jehovah's Witnesses say that Jesus is a God with Jehovah, as seen from the word was with God. They say that if Christ is with God, he cannot be God. Now, the Greek word for with means that Christ was so intimately connected with God that he is God. There are no gods together with me, is a passage in Deuteronomy 32:39 in the New World Translation. There is no God with me in the King James. Hence, Jehovah himself says that there are no gods with Jehovah. So Christ must be Jehovah. Do you get that? Hence, Jehovah says that there are no gods with Jehovah. So Christ must be Jehovah God. Number 7, every Greek scholar in the world. Okay, so just in case you didn't get that, every Greek scholar in the world is against the New World Translation of John 1:1. The word was a God. There are a couple of examples. M.R. Vincent, look it up, Word Studies in Greek New Testament, page 383. Quote, the Logos of John is the real personal God. K. Wurst, in Word Studies in Greek New Testament, page 209, quote, the Word was as to his essence absolute deity. A.T. Robinson, one of the greatest scholars out there, the Word was God, of divine nature, not a God. Expositor's Greek Testament is his book, page 684. And we've quoted Spiros Zodiates before. In John 1:1, Jesus Christ in his pre-incarnate state is called the Word, presenting as the second person of the Godhead. And that can be found in the book New Testament Word Study Dictionary, page 935. W.E. Vine, in the Complete Expository Dictionary of New Testament Words, page 683, states, quote, the Logos, the Word, the personal manifestation, not of a part of the divine nature, but of the whole deity. Now, number 8, all other gods are false gods. Hence, Jesus Christ in John 1:1 must either be the one only true God, Jehovah, or a false god. Which one do you think? Number 9, this is a good one. Church writers writing before 325 AD all agree that John 1:1 is the Word was God. And that it means that Jesus is fully God and man. This verse was never disputed before the occultist Grieber's New Testament was published in 1937. There are 12 church writers, at least before 325, that we can list, obviously plenty more, who all quote John 1:1 correctly as the Word was God. Now, in the little booklet, I used to have a copy, Should You Believe the Trinity? The Jehovah's Witnesses lie about what the early church fathers thought. They quote the church fathers, but they don't give you the source of where you can check up those quotes. I have checked them up, and I found statements from the same church fathers that the Watchtower says deny Jesus is God. I found quotes from them saying that Jesus is God. And I can give you the quote, I can give you the book, I can give you the page number. The Jehovah's Witnesses just give you a quote. They won't tell you where they got it, so you can't check it out. It's like, oh, just believe what we say. Jehovah's Witness, the Watchtower wants blind faith. Why do none of them quote it as a God? Why do they all quote it as God? Now, these early church writers knew Greek as their mother tongue. Hey, Simba. Oh, my cat. Okay, these early church fathers or church writers knew Greek as their native language and first language. These men often were quoting from original autographs, the original letters. Okay, we've got a list of 12 here. I will attempt to read their rather difficult names. Irenaeus, Theophilus of Antioch, Clement of Alexandria, Tertullian, Origen, Cyprian. What are you doing, Simba? Are you knocking Daddy's Bible over? Cyprian, Novatian, Hippolytus, Thaumaticus. Oh, that's a good name, isn't it? Methodius, Alexander, Tatian. So, you should compare the quotes of these ante-Nicene fathers, which contradict the Watchtower's invented quotes of church fathers, which you can find on page 7 of Should You Believe in the Trinity. Email me, message me if you want these quotes. Now, the Watchtower's Kingdom Interlinear translation slipped up. They boobed. On page 401 of the Kingdom Interlinear translation, quote of John 1:1, in the left-hand column has God was the Word, which contradicts the right-hand column, which the New World Translation, which says the Word was a God. Hence the Word, Christ who became flesh, is called God on the left-hand side of the page and a God on the right-hand side of the page. The Kingdom Interlinear translation. I think it's got a purple cover. A complete embarrassment to the Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh, I told you this was getting a bit involved. Now, here we are, number 11. Now, Greek grammar rules out a God, as I said before. Jehovah's Witnesses say that for Jesus to be Jehovah God here, there should be the definite article the before God or theos. Because theos does not have the definite article the before it, Jehovah's Witnesses conclude that the word was indefinite and means a God. There's no such thing as a perfect indefinite in the Greek language. Now, A.T. Robertson, who is a Greek authority, says in his book, A Grammar of Greek New Testament, nouns in the predicative, the article is not essential to speech. The word with the article the is then the subject of the sentence, whatever the word order may be. So in John 1:1, the theos, the subject is perfectly clear, the word. And it can only be the word was God. Hence the article, the, points out the subject of the clause and points out the predicative, the predicate, without the article. If John had written, I can't read that, so let's... and the word was a God, as the Jehovah's Witnesses would want, then John would be teaching the false doctrine of Sabellianism, that Christ is all of God, that God and Christ are interchangeable, that the Father was the one who became incarnate, suffered and died. Now, if the article is used with both the subject and the predicate, they would be then interchangeable as the subject nouns are in 1 John 3:4. Then both sin is transgression and transgression is sin are true. But in 1 John 4:16 can only be God is love, not love is God, because the article points out the subject. If the Greek language allowed us to say love is God just as readily as God is love in this verse, then God would not be a person, but just an abstract quality. And our friend Spiros, in his book, Was Christ God? You can check that out on page 98. Now, in conclusion, hence, the absence of the definite article the in John 1:1 is deliberate in order to identify the word as the subject of the sentence and to make it only to read as the word was God. It has nothing to do with Christ being a lesser God, as Jehovah's Witnesses claim. Hence, contrary to the New World Translation and the Emphatic Diaglot, which is another book that they use, by Benjamin Wilson, I believe, the Emphatic Diaglot, the Greek grammatical construction leaves no doubt whatsoever that the word was God is the only possible rendering of the text. So, my Jehovah's Witnesses friends, I love you. The Watchtower, though, has lied to you. 99% of Greek and Hebrew scholars, even those that are not Trinitarian and hold with your view of God, disagree with your translation of John 1:1. In her kain in her logos, kai her logos and prostontheon, kai theos in her logos. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Sorry, it's no use trying to understand how. It just is. If you have any questions, please comment, like, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. I don't get paid for this, so I'm not after money. If I'm wrong on anything here, please show me, quote me, provide sources, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Look after yourself, and God bless you guys.